Have you ever been pulled into a relationship that felt magnetic, only to find yourself slowly unraveling inside it? Hi, I'm Jim Rohn, and today we're diving into one of the most confusing and emotionally destabilizing relationship patterns you'll ever face, the fearful avoidant. They're not the kind of avoidant who simply ghosts or asks for space. They're more dangerous than that because they draw you in first. They create intimacy, mirror your emotions, say all the right things. And just when you let your guard down, they vanish, or worse, start to sabotage the connection from the inside. It's a pattern that leaves you doubting yourself. You wonder, was I too much? Did I imagine the connection? Why did they open up only to shut down? The answer isn't about you being unworthy, it's about them being deeply conflicted inside, caught between the fear of being abandoned and the terror of being truly seen. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 emotional masks these individuals wear, what I call the bear, the fox, the owl, the beaver, and finally, the mouse. Each one is a defense mechanism designed to keep you hooked while protecting their deepest emotional wound. You'll learn how to spot these patterns early, protect your own mental health, and stop blaming yourself for someone else's emotional chaos. Because here's the truth, the most dangerous avoidant isn't the one who disappears. It's the one who keeps almost connecting, who keeps you circling, hoping and shrinking until you don't recognize yourself anymore. So if you've ever felt emotionally starved in a relationship that looked perfect from the outside, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Tap the like button if you're ready to break free from inconsistent love. And leave a comment below. Your story might help someone else see their situation clearly for the first time. Let's begin. You deserve truth. You deserve peace. You deserve love that feels like home. Let's talk about the one kind of avoidant who makes you forget all of that and how to get yourself back. Let's start with the first layer, the bear. The bear is what you meet at the beginning of a relationship with a fearful avoidant. It's their most appealing mask. They seem emotionally available, grounded, maybe even a little cuddly. They're charming, relaxed, and seem unusually attuned to you. In fact, they often come across as the kind of person who's ready for a real relationship, ready for intimacy, ready to build something lasting. And because of that, you start to let your guard down. You think, finally, someone who gets it. But the bear isn't the real self. It's a performance, a protective false self designed to gain your trust without exposing their inner wounds. This stage can be intoxicating. The bear is good at mirroring. They listen closely, pick up on your emotional cues, and reflect back exactly what you want to hear. They might talk about a future with you, make vulnerable admissions that feel intimate, or present themselves as emotionally safe and stable. But what you're really experiencing is their adaptation mechanism. This version of them was built to survive early relationships where love had to be earned. It's their way of getting close without being real. Now, that's not to say they're consciously trying to deceive you. Most fearful avoidants don't even know they're doing this. They genuinely want connection, but they only feel safe if they can control how deep it goes. And that's what the bear allows them to do. It creates warmth without true vulnerability. It lets them look emotionally available without having to be emotionally available. The danger here is subtle, because the bear doesn't feel dangerous. It feels soothing. It feels like a safe harbor. But that's what makes it so emotionally disorienting when things change, because just when you start to relax, just when you start to believe in the connection, they begin to shift. That warmth starts to cool. That steady presence becomes inconsistent, and you're left wondering what happened to the version of them you first met. But the bear was never built to last. It's a temporary mask, a version of themselves designed to earn love without risking emotional exposure. And once closeness increases, that mask becomes too heavy. Their nervous system starts to panic, and that's when the deeper layers of the avoidant begin to emerge. This is the first sign that what you're dealing with isn't just a distant person, it's someone emotionally split between longing and fear. And if you don't recognize the bear for what it is, you'll blame yourself when the mask begins to fall away. You'll think you did something wrong. You'll chase the version of them that never really existed. But the truth is, the bear is just the opening act designed to make you feel safe enough to stay even when the real self remains hidden. Understanding this early layer helps you avoid emotional whiplash later. You stop getting attached to appearances and start asking the real question. Can this person stay emotionally present once the mask comes off? If not, you need to know that before you invest any deeper, because love without truth isn't connection, it's illusion. Next comes the fox. This is the second layer in the fearful avoidance emotional defense system, and it's more complicated than it looks. After the warmth of the bear has drawn you in, and you've started to feel close, the fox shows up. And the fox is tricky. This version of the avoidant isn't cold or openly distant. In fact, they're often even more engaging, charming, witty, flirtatious. They keep the emotional spark alive just enough to make you feel like something real is developing. But under that surface, it's still all about control. The fox knows how to give you a taste of vulnerability, but never the full thing. You might hear stories about their past, see flashes of softness, or have moments where it feels like you're breaking through. But there's a line, and you can feel it. They never fully cross into emotional openness. It's like they're acting out a role they've rehearsed, where they appear open, but always keep something back. And you start to notice the pattern. They flirt with connection, then pull away. They open the door, then close it just as quickly, not slamming it just enough to keep you leaning in. And that's exactly the point. The fox thrives on keeping you emotionally chasing. Not dramatically, but subtly. They say just enough to hook you, to keep you guessing, to make you think you're almost there. They might even use a little self-deprecating humor, or talk about how they have trouble opening up, or take time to trust. You hear that and feel empathy. You lean in, thinking that if you're just patient enough, kind enough, steady enough, you'll be the one who gets through to them. But the fox isn't looking for breakthrough, they're looking for emotional control, and they control through ambiguity. Not full intimacy, not full rejection. Just enough of both to keep you spinning. This phase is emotionally confusing because it plays directly into the anxious partner's instinct to earn love by doing more. So you invest, you open up, you become consistent, hoping they'll match you. But the more you give, the more they retreat into charm and distance. It's bait. Not because they're malicious, but because real vulnerability still feels unsafe. And the fox is their way of keeping intimacy at arm's length without losing your attention. And here's where it gets dangerous. The fox is seductive. They can be intensely magnetic. Their flashes of warmth and laughter can feel intimate. But they're fragments, not foundations. And if you don't recognize what's happening, you'll find yourself emotionally exhausted, giving more and more, getting less and less. Wondering why you feel so connected, but so alone at the same time. Understanding the fox helps you protect your energy. It reminds you to look beyond charm and chemistry and ask, is this person actually emotionally available, or are they just skilled at performing closeness? Because love that only shows up in small, controlled doses isn't love, it's a strategy. And you deserve more than strategy. You deserve someone who can meet you, not just flirt with the idea. Then comes the owl. This layer is perhaps the most disorienting because it doesn't look like a mask. It looks like healing. It feels like truth. When the avoidant shows up as the owl, they begin to open up in ways that seem deep, raw, and emotionally honest. They talk about their past, their childhood wounds, betrayals, the moments that shape their distrust in people. They might share the very pain that formed their avoidant patterns. And in that moment, you believe you're finally seeing the real them. They might even say things like, "I know I have walls," or "I've been working on myself," or "You make me want to change." These statements land with power. They activate your empathy. And if you're someone who leans anxious or simply has a big heart, this is where you get emotionally hooked. Because now it's not just about love, it's about healing together. But here's what makes the owl so tricky. While they share real pain, they do it in a way that doesn't lead to actual emotional risk. It feels intimate, but it's still controlled. You might think you're finally breaking through their walls, but what's actually happening is they're offering a curated version of their wounds, not the kind that allows for closeness, mutual growth, and repair. The owl talks about the trauma, but stays a step away from doing the work to change it in relationship with you. This is the trauma depth illusion. You believe that because they're self-aware, they're also self-responsible. But insight isn't the same as transformation. Knowing where your pain comes from is one thing. Learning how to love despite it is something else entirely. This stage often feels like the honeymoon phase because you see the cracks and think, yes, this is the real them. Now we can build something. You start to believe you're the one who sees them, that your patience and compassion are helping them heal. But often, once they've revealed this layer, they emotionally stall. They don't move forward. They start to slip into old distancing behaviors again. And because they've just shown you their soul, or so it seemed, you feel even more confused and heartbroken when they suddenly need space. This illusion is powerful because it mimics depth but avoids accountability. The owl is vulnerable in ways that don't require change. It gives you the emotional blueprint of their pain without the scaffolding to build something healthy together. It's emotional storytelling, not emotional intimacy. If you don't catch it, you'll double down. You'll work harder to help them to prove that your love can reach the part of them that hurts. But the truth is, no amount of compassion can heal someone who isn't choosing to grow. And if they're only willing to visit their wounds, not actually move through them, you become emotionally stuck. Recognizing the owl saves you from mistaking trauma sharing for emotional availability. You can empathize with their pain, but you don't have to sacrifice your peace in the name of potential. Because love isn't about being someone's therapist. It's about mutual presence, mutual growth. And you can't build real connection on stories alone. Then comes the beaver. This is the moment everything starts to change. You've gone from warmth the bear to charm the fox to what felt like vulnerability and self-awareness the owl. You've been drawn in slowly, layer by layer, each step pulling you deeper into the illusion of connection. But once things get too close, when the relationship begins to ask for real emotional availability, that's when the beaver shows up. The beaver is not cruel. They're not explosive, but they are deliberate. Quietly, subtly, they begin building walls, emotional dams brick by brick to keep you from getting any closer. Suddenly they're busier, their messages are shorter, their energy shifts. You feel the change, but they won't talk about it directly. If you bring it up, they may say things like, "I just have a lot going on," or "I need some space to clear my head." And while those reasons may be partly true, they're also a shield. What's really happening is that you've gotten too close to the part of them they don't want anyone to see, the vulnerable, disoriented self that feels unlovable if exposed. The beaver is the avoidant in self-protection mode. They've sensed the emotional temperature rising. Maybe your bond deepened, maybe you asked for more consistency, maybe they felt something real and now their system is flooded with fear. But instead of expressing that fear or being honest about their emotional limits, they start doing what they know best, withdrawing behind productivity, stress, and silence. And here's the painful part: if you try to chase them here, it only speeds up the distancing. The more you seek closeness, the faster they build. They start working later. They forget to respond. They keep conversations surface level. It's not that they've stopped caring, it's that they're trying to stop feeling. Because their nervous system is telling them this is unsafe. Shut it down before it hurts. This is a heartbreaking stage for the partner on the receiving end because it feels like emotional abandonment. One moment you were building something together, and now it feels like you're locked out of their emotional house. But the thing to remember is this isn't about you. It's about them defending themselves against intimacy they don't know how to handle. The beaver is terrified of drowning in emotional need, both theirs and yours, so they build a dam to control the flow. The mistake many people make at this point is to push harder, to prove loyalty, to show they're not a threat. But the more you try to tear down the dam, the stronger the beaver builds it. What they need, if they're ever going to feel safe, is to experience someone who can respect both closeness and autonomy. But that can't come at the cost of your own emotional needs. So when the beaver shows up, your job isn't to fix them or plead for access. It's to stay calm, stay clear, and stay connected to yourself. Let them feel the space they've created, not as punishment, but as reality. Because sometimes it's only when they feel the absence of intimacy that they recognize its value. And sometimes they don't. And that's when you know the dam wasn't built to manage fear, it was built to keep love out. Either way, you deserve to know the truth. At the very center of it all, beneath the charm, the stories, the distancing, the busyness, is the mouse. This is the part of the avoidant that almost no one sees. It's the most hidden, most protected version of themselves. The mouse is not strategic. It's not charming or mysterious. It's fragile, scared, deeply insecure. It's the part of them that still feels like a small child, unworthy, ashamed, terrified that if anyone truly saw their inner world, they'd be abandoned. Again. This is what all the other masks are built to protect. The bear wins your trust. The fox draws you in. The owl distracts with depth. The beaver builds walls. But the mouse is the reason they hide. Because deep down, the fearful avoidant doesn't actually believe they're lovable as they are. Not in the quiet, unpolished, unguarded state. They think love must be earned, controlled, or kept at a distance. And the closer you get, the more exposed the mouse feels. This is why things often fall apart, just when the relationship is deepening. It's not because they don't care, it's because they care so much, and the risk of rejection becomes unbearable. If you see the mouse, they think you'll run. And so they make sure you never do. They sabotage, they disappear. They stir conflict, not because they want to lose you, but because losing you on their own terms feels safer than waiting for the moment they believe is inevitable, that you'll see their brokenness and walk away. And this is where it becomes so painful for both people. Because at this point, the partner often sees the mouse peeking through. You sense their fear, their sadness, even their guilt. You want to reassure them to love them through it. But no matter how gentle or loyal you are, they don't believe love can stay if it gets too close to that hidden, trembling self. They don't push you away out of malice. They push you away out of expectation. Because they've already abandoned themselves. They've internalized the message, likely from childhood, that they're too much, not enough, or broken. And they live as if that's true. So when you meet the mouse, even if just in glimpses, it's not your job to rescue it. It's not your job to become the emotional protector they never had. That's a path that leads to self-abandonment and quiet resentment. You can offer compassion, yes, but with boundaries. You can understand their fragility, but without making yourself smaller to accommodate it. Because here's the truth, no matter how tender the mouse is, you deserve to be with someone who doesn't hide from love. You deserve to be chosen not through charm or chemistry, but through consistency and courage. Seeing the mouse may bring insight, but unless they are willing to face it, heal it, and show up with that truth in hand, your love will always be reaching for someone hiding behind layers. And that's not a relationship. That's a rescue mission. And you, my friend, are not here to rescue anyone. You're here to be met. Now we arrive at the core of it, all the psychological trap at the heart of the fearful-avoidant dynamic learned helplessness. This term comes from the work of psychologist Martin Seligman, who found that when animals and later people are repeatedly exposed to situations where their actions have no impact, they eventually give up trying. Even when escape or improvement becomes possible, they stop believing their efforts matter. They learn to be helpless even in the face of choice. That's what it feels like to love a fearful avoidant over time. At first, there's hope. They pull you in with the bear's warmth, the fox's charm, the owl's depth. You feel close, seen, like you're building something real. But just when your emotional investment deepens, the withdrawal starts. They retreat. They ghost. They say they need space, then come back with confusing affection. And you, being emotionally attuned, try harder. You communicate. You stay patient. You compromise. You reach again. But each time they pull away, the ground shifts beneath you. You stop feeling safe in the connection. You start questioning your own instincts. You think, maybe I'm too emotional. Maybe I'm too needy. Maybe I just need to be more understanding. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to shrink. You stop expressing your needs because you're afraid they'll leave. You stop asking for consistency because you've learned it will only create tension. You stop setting boundaries because doing so risks emotional distance. You adapt to their fear, their discomfort, their emotional limits. And here's where the danger lies. This constant back and forth love withdrawal, re-engagement, rewires your nervous system to associate instability with intimacy. Chaos becomes familiar. You start mistaking anxiety for chemistry and inconsistency for passion. And that's how learned helplessness takes root. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is trying to survive a cycle it doesn't understand. The most dangerous avoidant is not the one who ghosts and disappears. It's the one who keeps you just close enough to stay, but never close enough to feel safe. They activate your attachment system over and over. And because the highs are so intense and the lows are so empty, you get hooked on trying to fix the emotional whiplash. You end up thinking love is something you have to earn, and that's what makes it so disorienting. You're not just in a difficult relationship, you're being slowly conditioned to abandon yourself. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't feel like emotional starvation. It doesn't leave you anxious, silenced, or walking on eggshells. Real love has room for your voice, your needs, your boundaries. If someone can only meet you halfway on their terms, and your effort becomes a full-time job that's not connection, that's survival mode. You cannot heal someone else's emotional chaos by sacrificing your own clarity. Learned helplessness is a trap, but once you name it, you can begin to break it. And that's where real healing begins, not in fixing them, but in choosing you. Let's talk about what it really feels like to be in the orbit of a fearful avoidant. The document uses a powerful metaphor, the black hole, to describe their emotional pull. And it's spot on. At first, they feel like the sun, bright magnetic, pulling you closer with warmth and gravity. There's intensity, depth, mystery. You feel drawn in, seen in a way that feels rare. And the more you lean in, the more you feel like you're about to finally arrive at emotional home. But then, something strange starts to happen. The warmth cools, the ground shifts, their presence flickers. You question yourself, you try harder, but nothing works the same way anymore. What felt like connection now feels like confusion, and slowly your emotional reality begins to distort. This is the black hole effect. You're being pulled in not by truth, but by a gravitational force made of their wounds, their charm, their fear, and your own hope. The closer you get, the more you lose clarity. Time stretches. You wait longer for replies. You tolerate more inconsistencies, and piece by piece, you lose yourself. That's the danger of the fearful avoidant. They don't just create distance. They create emotional distortion. You no longer trust your needs. You wonder if you're too sensitive. You begin to mistake chaos for passion and neglect for subtle proof of care. And the deeper you're pulled into their orbit, the harder it is to see just how far from yourself you've drifted. But there's a way out. Escaping the web starts with one essential move: surrounding yourself with emotional safety. The author calls this your confidence pack. These are the people, friends, family, therapists, mentors who remind you of who you are when you're not stuck in survival mode. People who are consistent, grounded, and emotionally available. People who don't just say the right things, they show up. Fearful avoidants create webs of confusion. They keep you wondering, analyzing, decoding every word and silence. But safe people bring simplicity. You don't have to guess where you stand. You don't have to earn your place. With them, you don't feel like a burden for having needs. You feel seen, steady, real. And here's what happens. The more time you spend with safe people, the clearer your vision becomes. You begin to feel your own weight again, your voice, your boundaries, your worth. The spell starts to break. And eventually, you look back at that black hole, not with longing, but with clarity. You realize you were never being held. You were just being pulled. So if you felt stuck in emotional orbit, caught between hope and heartbreak, start here. Reconnect with the people who make you feel most yourself. The ones who remind you that real love is consistent, not confusing. That connection isn't meant to hurt. That the right kind of love won't distort your reality, it will bring you back to it. That's how you escape. Not by waiting for them to change, but by choosing to step back into your own gravity. Let's bring this full circle. If you've ever loved someone with a fearful avoidant attachment style, you know it can feel like emotional whiplash. They pull you in with warmth, charm, and depth, and just as quickly, they vanish behind walls of silence or self-sabotage. It's not random. It's not personal. It's the only way they've ever learned to survive closeness. In this video, we explored the emotional layers that make up the most dangerous kind of avoidant. We met the bear, the warm, idealized self they use to build trust. The fox, flirtatious and controlled, offering connection with strings attached. The owl, full of trauma sharing and insight but rarely accountability. The beaver, busily building walls the moment things get real. And finally, the mouse, the frightened, shame-filled core self. They protect at all costs. Each of these personas pulls you deeper into a relationship that feels intimate on the surface, but slowly drains your clarity, confidence, and emotional stability. That's what makes this dynamic so dangerous, not the drama, but the distortion. You begin to shrink, to self-abandon, to mistake inconsistency for love. And at the heart of this dynamic lies something powerful: learned helplessness. The slow erosion of your belief that your needs matter, that your voice is welcome, that you can ask for more without it costing the relationship. But here's your way out. Healing doesn't come from trying harder to be enough for someone else. It comes from surrounding yourself with people who make you feel safe, steady, and seen. People who don't make you earn your place. You don't heal by isolating or analyzing every text. You heal by re-entering relationships where love feels calm, clear, consistent. So if this resonated with you, know this: you are not broken. You're not too much. You're not unlovable. You've just been orbiting someone who never learned to stay, and you don't have to stay stuck there. You can choose peace. You can choose self-respect. You can choose you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this video helped you see things more clearly, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a conversation like this. Leave a comment below, share your story, your insights, or just a word for someone else who might be struggling, and hit that like button to let the algorithm know that emotional clarity matters. Because love isn't supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. It's supposed to feel like home, and you deserve nothing less. I'm Jim Rohn. I'll see you in the next one.